Good evening. This is my great pleasure to share with you this evening my perspective on business and human rights in Taiwan, Singapore, Hong Kong, and China. And I see both challenges and opportunities in these countries. Before joining the Resource Center, I have been an advocate in Hong Kong on behalf of workers, in particular female workers who labor in Chinese and Cambodia factories, long hours in unsafe conditions. I saw how many companies could damage their reputation and their profits by neglecting the rights of their employees. My job at the Resource Center expands upon that work, allowing me to draw attention to a broad range of human rights issues, such as discrimination against hepatitis B, those who with hepatitis B, land seizure and forced eviction, scandals over food contamination, IT companies, both foreign and Chinese, complying with government demands for censorship and restrictions on freedom of expression, multinationals providing the Chinese governments with surveillance equipment, and pollution not only harming the health of communities, but also destroying the livelihood of farmers and fishing communities. In Taiwan, labor and environmental concerns loom large. Despite Taiwan being an advanced economy, some Taiwanese workers still struggle to earn a living wage, with many incidents of illness and even death from overwork. During a recent mission to Taiwan, labor groups told me about steps many companies owners take to block workers from exercising their rights to set up trade unions inside factories or workplaces. The past year have witnessed tragic events at the mainland Chinese factories of Foxconn, a Taiwanese company with over 1 million workers on the mainland. Foxconn is the world's largest maker of electronics components, whose clients include Sony, Nokia, HP, Dell, and Apple. It manufactures iPhone and iPad. Over a period of months in 2010, about 14 workers from Foxconn factories across China left to their deaths, with more suicides attempted. Reports allege that the company's largest plant in Sumchang is like a labor camp, where workers were beaten, forced to work long hours without overtime, and with little regard to health and safety, and where they faced discrimination from Taiwanese co-workers. This particular slide show the ages and also the number of workers that committed suicide. Our organization seeks public responses from companies when concerns are raised about their conduct. And this ensures that our users get all viewpoints on the problem, while encouraging companies to address concerns. With each new concern raised, we invited Foxconn to respond, and each time it did so. We posted on our website and in our weekly updates Foxconn statements, as well as continuing concerns raised by labor groups inside and outside China. From time to time, Singaporean firms operating overseas are accused of abuses. Sorry about this. From time to time, Singaporean firms operating overseas are accused of abuses. For example, this year, the Institute for Global Labor and Human Rights reported serious abuses at an Ocean Sky International factory in El Salvador, which employs 1,500 employees, workers, mostly women. The allegations included sexual harassment, verbal and physical abuse, forced overtime, contaminated drinking water, and failure to pay a living wage. The facility was reportedly surrounded by barbed wire and controlled by guards armed with shotguns. We invited Ocean Sky to respond, which it did, saying that it was operating with an independent investigation of the factory and would take necessary steps to remediate the situation. And by May, the Institute for Global Labor and Human Rights announced that the workers had won major improvements, while some challenges still remain. And now to China. Just as NGOs have become increasingly active in Taiwan, so do we see mainland Chinese NGOs were forced on monitoring corporate conduct. The number of mainland Chinese companies we track on website has grown to more than 360. Our overall response rate globally is 75%. We are nevertheless pleased that our response rate by mainland Chinese private companies is 50%, because for some, when I email and telephone them, this may be the first time international NGO has approached them to seek public response to human rights concerns. For China's large state-owned enterprises, the response rate is 38%. And we believe response rates by Chinese firms will increase because they increasingly care about their international reputation and because of their growing ambition to become world-class companies. You won't be surprised to hear that many cases in China concern abuses of workers' rights. And in some cases in China, we see companies take steps to address labor abuses. But many challenges remain, exacerbated by the lack of independent unions that you all know of. Increasingly, we receive reports about alleged abuses by Chinese companies operating abroad. For example, in March, we secured a response from a Chinese state-owned enterprise called China Railway Construction Corporation to concerns raised by two human rights NGOs. The company's Ecuadorian subsidiary, Corriente Resources, reportedly failed to consult the indigenous population, which was forcibly evicted from the designated mining site and polluted their local water source. Of course, in all these cases, the key actors are the groups working on the ground, exposing harmful corporate conduct and seeking to change it. One of the most effective NGOs in China is the Institute of Public and Environmental Affairs, Margin's organization. Over the past year and a half, Margin has led a network of Chinese environmental organizations calling on multinational IT firms to address the fact that some of the Chinese suppliers dump heavy metals into Chinese water bodies, causing serious harm to the health of communities. We were able to assist by securing responses from all the multinationals and had not previously responded to Margins and his partners. I will leave this to Margin to explain further the ongoing work he and his partners are doing on these issues. Before concluding my presentation, I would like to bring your attention 5 encouraging trends in China that I could observe over the past year. First, joint campaigns of Chinese NGOs have emerged as an effective strategy to make all companies doing business in China, including American and European brands, mindful of their harmful impacts and what they can do to eliminate them. Second, campaigners in Africa, Asia, and other regions have begun to network with Chinese NGOs. They found common ground working together to make Chinese business more accountable for their human rights impacts. Third, an increasing number of lawsuits and formal complaints have been brought in mainland China by Chinese alleging abuses by their employees. Hundreds of thousands of cases each year. The cost of local mediation or arbitration committees rule in favor of the workers in significant percentage of these cases. And fourth, a more independent Chinese media is increasing its reporting on business impacts inside and outside China, promoting greater transparency. And fifth, the Chinese government supported adoption of the new United Nations Guiding Principles on Business and Human Rights. But this is not to say that the present or future for business and human rights in China is all rosy. There are many significant and serious concerns that remain and need to be addressed. And I believe the way forward is to give more attention to both the concerns and the positive examples in China, to engage Chinese companies as global players and to hold them to international human rights standards. Thank you.